What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
yachts and parties,
safety car, Ferrari.
beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much.
Hello, you fools. Welcome to the Formula Fools podcast, the podcast where we hope to enhance your F1 knowledge so that you can graduate from fool to expert. Speaking of expert, I am David, your self-appointed expert, and with me is Skin, your local fool on the podcast.
Hello, I am here.
Hello, Skin.
You say with you. I'm not with you at all. I'm in a very different location, which is why everything probably looks a bit strange if you're watching on YouTube and such, but that's all right.
Yeah. Skin is in Korea this week, the south of Korea, luckily.
Thank you, Dave.
From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. Anyone that's watching on YouTube, we will address why I'm also in a different location to what you're used to next week.
True.
Yeah, a whole thing has happened, but I don't want to announce it until we're together. I just kind of have.
Even though people will be able to see it.
Yeah, but you sift up that. You save it for
Right.
then a second time you use the new studio.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this week we're talking about the Miami Grand Prix. So first off, we're going to start off with Ryan's hot lap recap. He's done 2 to begin with. We're going to cut this poddy in half, and you're going to have sprint race first and then the Grand Prix second because there was so much action. So Ryan's hot lap recap, sprint race edition.
The race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go.
All right, fools, it's your hot lap recap for the Miami Sprint. This time, a race so chaotic, even the weather couldn't make up its mind. Now, if you thought Miami was all sun and sangria, think again. We had rain, red flags, and more penalties than a Sunday league football match. So, let's start at the top. Come on then. Lando Norris, yes, Miami's adopted lucky charm, pulled off another Houdini act to snatch victory from his teammate, Oscar Piastri. I almost forgot his name then. It was almost a carbon copy of last year's Grand Prix, a perfectly timed safety car, a cheeky pit stop, and Norris sailing into the lead while everyone else wondered what just happened. Lando himself summed it up. My luck in Miami seems pretty good at the minute. If only he could bottle it and take it off to Monaco. Piastri, meanwhile, had every right to feel a bit robbed. He nailed the launch, mugged Antonelli at the start, and was controlling things, wasn't he? Right up the front, with a sort of calm that makes you wonder if he's secretly a robot. But just as he pitted for slicks, the safety car came out for Alonso and Lawson's tangle at turn 2. And Norris, pitting a lap later, got that golden ticket. Oscar rejoined behind, and with the race finishing under the safety car, he could do nothing but stew in second and tell his crew not to buy any Miami lottery tickets. Still, elbows out at the start, championship lead intact, but the Norris gap is down to 9 points. Now, the start itself was a mess, wasn't it? Rain hammered the track, Leclerc binned it on the way to the grid, and we had a 28-minute delay while everyone waited for Florida to remember it's supposed to be a tropical place, not torrential. Now, when we finally got going, Antonelli's pole lasted about as long as a British summer, and Piastri breezed past. Antonelli ran wide, and by turn 1, it was all papaya up front. The pit stop phase was pure carnage. Hamilton, struggling on wets, called his own switch to slicks on lap 11, a move that catapulted him from nowhere to 3rd, passing Verstappen's wounded Red Bull for good measure. Lewis was absolutely buzzing, wasn't he? I made that call in the end because I was going nowhere, he said. Nice to see the old dog still has some tricks, even if he'd never thought he'd need them in Miami rain. And then there was Max Verstappen. Verstappen was running 4th, but Red Bull released him straight into Antonelli in the pit lane. I can't wait to hear what you guys have got to say about that. Cue a 10-second penalty and a broken front wing, and Max tumbling all the way to 17th and last. Not his finest hour, and a proper blow for Antonelli too, who had to do another lap before then pitting and ending up 7th after a flurry of post-race penalties reshuffled the order. And speaking of penalties, the stewards were busier than a Miami bartender on race weekend. Albon, Lawson and Behrman all copped 5-second time penalties for various offences, which promoted Yuki Tsunoda, Antonelli and Pierre Gasly into the points. Williams fans, yes, Dave, we see you had a brief moment of joy as Albon crossed the line fourth, only for the penalty to drop him out of the points. Damn. Still, the fact we're even talking about Williams in the sharp end is a sign of life that we haven't seen in years. Quiet optimism, lads, that is. Quiet optimism.
I'm not being quiet.
That's your sprint recap. I'm Ryan, reminding you that in F1, as in life, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But if you can be both, you're probably driving a McLaren in Miami.
That was a good recap. Yeah. The Williams thing, just straight off the bat, I watched the sprint race and the main qualifying at like 8 a.m. here because the sprint race was on at 2 or 3 a.m. And I put on our Formula 4 story how happy I was for a P4. And then like 10 minutes later, I started qualifying. I was like, oh, we didn't get P4. We got a penalty instead.
Well done, Dave.
Yeah, it was really good social media work from me.
What was Albon's penalty for?
Albon got a penalty for. I did write it down. He got a penalty for a safety car infringement. Apparently, he slowed down too much behind the safety car and let the cars ahead of him, like they pulled like too far away. There's like a delta time that you're supposed to like be within to the car ahead of you. Honestly, I think everyone agrees with this. It's a bit of a bullshit penalty. Like the stewards even said that like he was doing it because of a problem or something. Like there was a reason for it, and they acknowledged that it was a valid reason for him to slow down, and then still give him a 5-second penalty. So, yeah,
okay.
William, like James Vowles afterwards said, he was like, "I'm going to remember them five points at the end of the season." So we're taking it personally.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Dramas. That is weird to get a penalty for being too slow under the safety car. I would have thought the whole point of that is to slow people down, but
yeah. Yeah, Ryan mentioned a few other things in there. Charles, I don't know if Ryan gave it a big mention, but Charles aquaplaning into the wall before the race was just so unlucky. There's a few people after the race saying, "Oh, I probably could have gone a bit slower." Lewis calling Ferrari out for sending them out on intermediate tires instead of wets. But like Ted said, when Charles left the pits, he said, yeah, it's intermediate weather. And then within 10 seconds of that, the rain just came down even heavier. So it was like, all of a sudden it wasn't intermediate weather. So it was just unlucky. Like they could have gone out on full wets, but equally, just shit luck. They were just trying to feel what grip was out there. And there wasn't a lot.
Yeah, no, certainly not. As he was aquaplaning into the wall, it looked like there was none.
Kimi had a belter, not a better. He had a belter sprint qualifying. His lap just kind of came out of nowhere, and then just kind of hit the deck into turn one, and kind of tried to defend a corner that he'd already lost because he had a bad start. And it was just he's a rookie at the end of the day, and these mistakes are expected by a rookie. But I also think the progression of his racecraft this year already is he will never do that mistake again. I don't think. Like he's the kind of driver that will take everything from that and he'll learn from that. And when he's in a position to actually challenge like week in, week out for first place, we'll see him be sharper into turn one. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, surely there's a good thing. Like surely it's not a bad trait to have, like trying to defend positions.
Yeah.
A little bit too hard.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine that would help win races at some point. So
I think the thing is the lesson to learn is to know when to defend and when not to. Like in that situation, he should have yielded it, turning into the corner. It was obvious Oscar had the corner. He should have yielded and then just slotted into P2 instead of getting off the track. And the track was very green, as we call it, because of all the rain. And it was just, there was just not a lot of grip off of circuit. So yeah, he should have just slotted into P2 and could have still bagged a podium, but who knows with all that drama at the end. He may have got a penalty for no apparent reason. Just, Saul Williams fan over here.
Right. Was qualifying like normal, or was it like very weather affected as well? Like like Antonelli getting pole just seemed so out of the blue, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's why it was such a good lap, because it was a regular qualifying. He did that lap on merit. Yeah, I don't know where it came from. It was a genuine guru
He
lap.
drove faster than everyone else.
Yep. He set the lap record with that lap, which then got broken in the qualifying the next day, but he set the lap record with that lap. So it was, it was an amazing lap, and I don't think anyone expected that from the Mercedes. So yeah, hats off to him.
Okay, good on him. Cool.
Ferrari actually, Ryan mentioned this in there. Ferrari actually pulled a blinder with their strategy, with Hamilton's call to pit off of the intermediates and go to the softs. I think he was one of the first. He may have been the first in the top 10 to do it, and because of that, scored the podium. And for the first time this year, potentially, I think I may have already said it again, but well done to Ferrari for a strategic masterclass. Let's wait until later in the episode to talk about what happened in the race, though.
Okay.
I'm just talking about the sprint right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, and so was that all Lewis's idea, was it? Because that was, so had the track just dried out a bunch and people sort of needed to start going on to softs, and he just went way earlier than everyone else, basically. Is that right?
Yeah, I think Yuki started from the pits because he had a shocking qualifying. I think Yuki pitted, he was the first person to go onto a slick tyre. And then, Ryan said it was his call. I've not, like I said, I literally just watched the sprint. As soon as the sprint was done, I put qualifying straight on. So I didn't see any of the post-sprint stuff. So I don't know if it was Lewis's call, but Ryan seemed pretty convinced. So I'll go with that. But you've got to take your hats off to Lewis to have that knowledge, but also to Ferrari to not look at their data and to just go off of what the driver is reading out on track, like live. And going for it. But yeah, it was the track had dried quite a bit, and it was in that transition period of, is it dry enough for wets? Because I think down the back straight, there was some bridges going over the track, and there were pools of water going across the track underneath the bridges where it was just pouring off of them still. So yeah, I think we heard Oscar saying there's still some rivers on the track. And it's a big risk going on softs when there are conditions like that still, because you could hit one of them and just aquaplane and lose your rear end, or have a little snap and just lose the car. So very bold move, but paid off.
Would be a very bad day if you lost the whole car in the middle of a race.
Why? Oh, do you want to talk about Carlos in the sprint race?
Huh?
Do you want to talk about how Carlos just hit the wall in the sprint race 5 laps later?
Look, please tell me about that. But no, that was just a terrible attempt at a joke about, if you're driving a car and then you lose it.
Skin.
Anyways.
Yeah, we might cut that. I'll be honest, we won't, but we might.
Except cut all your stupid bits.
My bits are great. We get tens of thousands of messages saying how funny I am every week. So
that sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's not. I lied. Carlos Sainz hitting the wall mid race. I wanted to cry. With everything that was happening in that race, we could have bagged a double points finish, which in sprint races is a top 8. And so I am so sad that he clipped the wall and it ended his race. It was kind of a bit of a silly mistake, but it's also one of them mistakes in a hectic race like that anyone can make. And it just had to be Carlos, didn't it?
Yep. Poor old Williams.
Something else happened in the race, which I thought was fascinating. And we'll talk about this later on in this is in the sprint race, but we'll talk about something to do with Liam Lawson in the race again. Liam Lawson tagging Fernando Alonso towards the end, which brought out the safety car, which finished the race. It was just unnecessary. He didn't need to hit Fernando like that. He went Fernando squeezed him to the outside of the track. He went off the track. He didn't need to turn so aggressively. There was plenty of a runoff area for him to safely rejoin. And yeah, I just thought it was just unnecessary driving for Lawson, which he ended up getting a penalty for after the race as well, which pushed him out of the points. What was your take on the Lawson Alonso stuff?
Similar. It just looked unnecessary, and then coupled with what ended up happening in the race later on, it wasn't the nicest look. Yeah,
it sucked from Lawson. And then post-race penalties. So we've already spoke about Alex getting a post-race penalty. Lawson got one for that, and then Ollie Behrman got one for an unsafe release, which I'm not sure we saw on the live coverage, but And obviously Max Verstappen got an unsafe release penalty as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did see an unsafe release, didn't we? When
Yeah.
Max drove straight into Kimi.
Straight into the side of Kimi Antonelli. That must have been, I mean, you can see on the replay, the mechanics on the rear that would have been changing the rear left tire on the Mercedes. You can see them all flinch and like jump out of the way. That could have, like, we've seen people spin in the pits.
Really?
Imagine if that had spanned Kimi into the path of the mechanics. Like, we could have had 12, 13 people just genuinely seriously injured. So it's not great from Red Bull, and I really hope they take it way more seriously, because there is clearly an issue with their traffic light system. Like, second time this season, we've had a problem with it, and this time it's caused a fairly serious injury and a fairly serious incident. And luckily, Kimi Antonelli was wise enough and was watching very carefully. You can actually see him brake and turn before they even make contact. So yeah, it was unreal reactions from Kimi.
Yeah, okay. Wait, so what would have gone wrong there? They've just got like a light system above Max's car telling him when he can and can't go. And it, like, who is that? Is there just a person controlling that?
So it's automatic based on when the guns. So you'll see the tire guns going into the tires. They'll have a red light on top, and then when it senses that it's tight in the nut, they'll go green. So when all of them four things happen, it'll then automatically go green. But there's a person stood. If you watch it from Max's onboard, there's a person stood to Max's left at the front, and his job is to look past Max Verstappen down the pits and to see another car coming. He's got a box in his hand to override the automatic procedure to let Max go, because Max can't see down the pits. Like, his mirrors aren't, they're not that good. He can't look over his shoulder or anything. So his job is to do that. I don't know if Red Bull have confirmed whether or not it was a human error and he didn't press it in time, or if it was a software error. So yeah, there's an override button to it, and it didn't work somehow.
Right. Okay. So Matt's just bloody clocked off. He's handed in his 2 weeks notice and just started slacking, has he?
Yeah, literally. Oh God!
He's got the best view in the house down the straight.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, do you want me to make this race interesting? Watch this. Doesn't press the button.
Yeah. And so what happened for poor old Kimi there? So he was trying to pit, which would have been useful, I imagine. Then just had to drive through the pits.
Yep.
Do another lap.
Yep.
Probably quite slowly if he was wanting to pit.
Yep.
Like, I assume he wasn't going as fast as he would have liked to be going. Yep. And then had to come back in and pit again the next lap.
Absolutely, yeah. And the problem there is you've hit the nail on the head there, because you've said he would have been going slower on that next lap, because your intermediate tires, the moment that the rain disappears, they'll just overheat like crazy. And he's then pulled into the pits, which will have cooled them down like crazy. And then he's had to go back out, and he's got tires that are just kind of nowhere. And they're also intermediates when he should be on, the track's drying an insane amount at that point. And yeah, it would have been a world of pain for Kimi going around, looking at his lap time on his steering wheel as well, and knowing that he's probably 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds down on his lap time because of all of that. And he's then got to pit again at the end of it. So yeah, that's absolutely what it is. Like, it's just shit luck. The only reason Kimi got a point, where did he finish? I think he finished like P7 or something like that. Yeah, P7 he finished. And the only reason he got P7 was because the safety car and the penalties like towards the end.
Yeah, right. Okay, crikey.
Right, moving on to the Miami Grand Prix, the main event of the weekend. Ryan has done us another hot lap recap. I won't play the jingle again. You've already heard it once. Ryan.
No way. He's on the tools.
Hey, back again, fools. This time it's your hot lap recap from Miami, the proper race this time. And before we get to the racing, let's talk about that parade lap, shall we, that had every engineer on the pit wall clutching their heads. This year, the drivers' parade saw all 20 F1 stars piloting full-sized drivable Lego cars. That's right, nearly 400,000 bricks per car, 1,500 kilograms apiece, and a top speed of 20 kilometers per hour. Basically, the same speed and pace that Williams had back in 2019.
There's just no need.
With a lot more colour. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton called it the most fun that we've ever had in the drivers' parade and probably a race. And judging by the grins, even Verstappen couldn't find anything to complain about, apart from perhaps the odd bit of Lego debris on the racing line. If you missed it, picture 20 drivers and world champions and all sorts of hopefuls doing their best to rear end each other in what looked like the world's slowest, most expensive game of Mario Kart. Okay, but onto the main event. And Miami delivered a race as bright and as unpredictable as those Lego liveries. Oscar Piastri is now the man with the golden bricks. 4 wins in 6 races, 3 in a row, and a championship lead that's starting to look as sturdy as his Lego Technic chassis. He started 4th, but wasted no time slicing past Antonelli's Mercedes, and then spent lap after lap pressuring Verstappen's Red Bull. It took nerves of steel and a touch of patience, but on lap 14, Piastri finally pounced, forcing Max into a mistake at turn 1 and sweeping into the lead. Lando Norris's day was more Miami roller coaster than parade lap. He got squeezed wide by Verstappen at the start, tumbling to 6th, but then set about a bit of a gritty comeback, dispatching Albon, Russell and Antonelli before finally mugging Verstappen for 2nd. And for a few laps, it looked like we might get a papaya punch-up for the win, but Piastri coolly kept Lando at arm's length, crossing the line for a commanding McLaren 1-2. Behind them, George Russell played the long game, benefiting from a very well-timed virtual safety car to leapfrog Verstappen and claim the final podium spot. Max, meanwhile, found himself on the wrong side of strategy and tyre wear, finishing a frustrated 4th after a day spent defending rather than attacking. And Ferrari, never once to shy away from a bit of intra-team drama, gave us radio soap opera. Did you hear it? Hamilton, on fresher tyres, pleaded with the team, let me pass Leclerc. And the team dithered and they dallied and, it took forever. And then even Lewis suggested, take a tea break, wax right, lads, there's no rush. And when he finally got by, he then couldn't catch Antonelli. And in the end, Leclerc was told then to let Lewis back through. But by that point, they were both too far back behind to just do anything about it. And Sainz had a late lunge at Hamilton as well for 8th, but then still had to settle for 9th, didn't make it stick. While Yuki Tsunoda rounded out the points despite getting a 5-second penalty. And another nod to Williams, yes. Oh, Dave, you must be loving this. Alex Albon put in another quietly impressive drive, mixing it with the big boys and pissing off his teammate at the same time. Dave, he knew it all along, didn't he? He's been saying it since we started this pod, but the rest of us are now starting to believe this Williams revival might actually stick. And I always like to check in with these guys. As for Aston Martin, well, Stroll and Alonso finished the race, which is about as much as you can say. Next up, it's Imola and the start of a European triple header. That's your Hot Lap recap. I'm Ryan, and whether you're building a championship or a Lego car, remember, it's not just about how fast you go, but how well you keep it all from falling apart.
I like it. That was a good one from Ryan.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah, he's
Very
doing
thorough.
well. We need to step up our game. And by step up our game, I mean, you came out with that great pun earlier, so not really a pun, but a joke.
Dave. Yeah, I thought it was great.
So we touched upon it there. Max Verstappen's qualifying lap was unreal, broke Kimi's record from 24 hours prior. 24 hours prior. And looked like, from qualifying, they were actually going to challenge for the win over the race, but McLaren finishing, I think Max was 37 seconds behind either Oscar or Lando. It was over 30 seconds behind Lando in second. So yeah, great qualifying lap, but over a full race, Red Bull just still don't have the edge on McLaren, and no one does.
Right. Yeah. Okay. What was Ryan referring to about Max being struggling with strategy? What did Red Bull do poorly in terms of strategy?
What did Red Bull do poorly in terms of strategy?
I don't know. That was my question. Because it looks like he was going quite well.
Yep.
For a while, he like he stuck in front of Piastri for a decent chunk of the race, like maybe 20 odd laps or so.
Yep.
And then
it
and
was.
then eventually Lando caught him as well. But I mean, McLaren just have a faster car, so that kind of makes sense. And then it was really just George getting past him that sucked. But how was that strategy? Wasn't that just a bit of bad luck with the safety car or something?
Yes, it was bad luck with the safety car, but I think what he was more referring to was the way that everyone pipped them. They could have gone slightly longer on the tires, or they could have tried an undercut. Yeah, look, it's in a race weekend like this where George got so lucky to get P3 because of that VSC. You can't blame your team on strategy on that. So yeah, he may have been pissed off with that, but yeah, there's not really a lot you could do. They could have been a bit more aggressive with the strategy, pitted dramatically earlier, or held out for quite a while to just see if a safety car would come up. But if they had gone longer and a safety car didn't come up, then they would have lost the place, then he would have been pissed off because of that. So you've just got to kind of go with the flow, and I don't know why he would be pissed off necessarily with that. You did have a question though about that turn one drama with Max and Lando.
Yeah, a couple of questions. So it looked kind of similar to the drama we were debating the other week between Oscar and Max, where I thought Oscar had sort of pushed Max off the track, and you were saying there's all these sort of rules and guidelines that mean that what Oscar did was sort of perfect, and then this looked kind of similar. Like I thought Max went pretty wide and Lando sort of got forced off.
Yeah,
and apparently there's a similar set of rules and guidelines that means that Max did nothing wrong and hence got no penalties and stuff and was all good. Yep. But there's some subtle difference between the rules because this was Lando was going down the inside rather than the outside or something. Like there's some different point you have to be at to be considered in front at the apex. Like if it's inside or outside, or if there are like multiple corners in a row or something, there's all these different little things that they consider. What is that all about?
It's more like for this one, for example, I think they spoke about it more because of the dramas last week. And so the FIA clarified what the rule was if you're attacking on the inside. And so the rule there is kind of like your front wheel needs to be alongside the wing mirror is what they're saying now. Which as a driver, I don't really understand how you would keep track of that while you're also trying to control your car. But yeah, you are right though. It is very similar to what we saw last week. And I think this one shows a little bit more why Oscar didn't deserve the penalty a couple of weeks back. Because I think if you look at Max's trajectory from the above camera angle, you can kind of see his car slide out a little bit and you can kind of see like him really struggling with it. And so I think if you flip that and you look at the one from the other week, you can see why being on the outside is a lot more difficult and why going off the track and, is going to make you go faster kind of thing like he was a couple of weeks ago. And if Max on this occasion had gone off the track, then yet again, it probably would have been Lando's corner, but it went differently. And then into the next corner. Sorry, that's all into turn one. And then into the next corner, Max squeezed him on the outside. So it was a flip situation. And it was kind of the same rules again, like Lando didn't really, he wouldn't have had the grip and so had to go off the track, and then he lost the physical places. But that was Lando lifting off to rejoin the track safely, which is what Max didn't do the other week.
Right. Okay. Yeah. See, that was my follow-up question is why? Yeah. How did Lando end up so far back? Like I would have thought if he went off the track, he'd just sort of slide back in behind Max and lose like one position, and then he was back in like P6 or something. Wasn't he behind the Williams for a bit? Yeah, he was in P6 behind Alex at one point, which like the moment he went to overtake, it was obvious we weren't going to defend that. But yeah, it's more like we said about the track being green, that, the rain cleans the track, it takes the rubber off, and it means that offline or off track is really, really dirty and dusty. And we saw it during the race in the early stages. I think it was a Haas or something, moved offline to defend. I think it might have been Ocon against Carlos, moved offline to defend. And I thought he had smoke coming out the back of his car, but it was just the dust being kicked up off of the dirty, like off of the offline bit of the circuit. So for Lando, he would have gone off and just had really dirty tires. He may have picked up a bit of wheel spin rejoining.
whereas everyone else is on the racing line and they're flat out and they're gunning for it. So,
Right.
it would have taken his car a little bit to get back up to speed. And so, yeah, slotted into P6 behind Alex, which would have been great if he had then just like spun and, I don't know, hit Leclerc or Lewis or something. And then, we could have been up there for P5.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
or if he just decided P6 was good, I'll just sit here behind Alex and watch him get some more points. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That would have been nice of him.
Could have
Really
defended
weird
the
he
cars
didn't do
behind.
that. Yeah.
I like it, Skid. So I think at that point, though, that's a good point to jump in at. Lando did have a great race after going to P6. He made up the positions, got back onto the podium, and really made some good overtakes against Alex, against George and Kimi. And he was looking like he was on for a very good race, which, I mean, he did have a very good race. He still finished in P2. And like I said, was over 30 seconds ahead of Max. The problem, I think, comes for Lando, and a lot of people on social media are talking about this week. Oscar overtook Max, and the way that he overtook Max was very calculated. It's like he knows what Max is going to do, and he's aggressive enough to make a clean overtake against Max, and he's forcing Max to make a mistake. Whereas we don't see the same from Lando. When Lando caught up to the back of Max, he struggled to overtake him, just like we saw a few weeks ago. He struggled to overtake, he struggled to make a move stick, and he was getting frustrated. And then when he did overtake, he pushed Max wide, and he also went off track, so had to give the position back and then make the overtake again a couple of laps later. And I just think week in, week out, every single time we have a race, I keep saying this, that we're seeing these mistakes from Lando. We're seeing these struggles, or he's getting in his own head, or, he's just not quite mature, or I don't know, just confident in himself to win a championship. And I think we saw it again this week with the overtakes against Max.
In Lando's defense, do you think that's just highlighted by the fact that Oscar's very good at the moment?
Yeah.
I feel like 100%. Most people would struggle to overtake Max.
100%.
Oscar made it look easy, and suddenly it's like, Lando, he's fucking lost it. Worst driver in the world. No,
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if we're going to put them two against each other. If you're going to put the whole grid on the field, then he's definitely within the top, 5-6 drivers at the moment. But I think if you're going to put him up against his teammate's better. I don't think there's I think over the season we're going to see Oscar beat Lando, and I truly believe that based on the first 6-7 races, whatever we're at now, just because Oscar looks to have a clearer head and is making better moves than Lando has all season. So yeah, it's more based on that.
That move that Oscar did make on Max.
Yeah.
How, people were talking about how he sort of knew what Max was going to do and stuff. How much of that do you think is him is preemptive and knowing what Max is going to do and having a good plan versus how much is just reactive and seeing that Max is sort of dived a bit too deep and quickly reacting down the inside sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's difficult to know without being Oscar. I think he would be maybe 30% reactive and 70% calculated. The thing that you always get taught when you're young and you go-karting or you're doing any kind of driving is if you're following someone for multiple laps, you want to watch the car ahead and see what the car ahead's doing. You almost drive on instinct, and you don't even think about what you're doing in your car. You just watch what they're doing, so that if there's a point where you can attack, you can see where they're weak. And I think Oscar did that perfectly. He followed Max for a few laps, and I think he could see into turn one, Max was struggling with his braking. We saw a few lockups throughout the weekend for Max into turn one, and Red Bull just didn't seem to have the grip that Oscar did. And then I think Oscar, also knowing Max as a racing driver, would know that he is going to brake later to try and force Oscar wide to squeeze him on the exit of the corner so that he'll keep the position. So I think 70% of him would have been watching him live and saying he's struggling into turn one and knowing how Max usually defends. So Oscar would have braked on his normal line, but braked slightly and come off the brake slightly earlier to make that switchback happen. And I think, Fernando was known for this in his Renault and Ferrari days, and Danny Rick was almost known for the opposite and for doing what Max does, where it's last of the late breakers. And And I think it's just different people have different ways of attacking and defending. And I think what Oscar did was very calculated, but also quite reactive, because I think had Max not done that, Oscar was still in a good position to, release the throttle, release the brake, hit the throttle and try for around the outside. So I think it was just a phenomenal move from Oscar, in all honesty.
Okay.
That was a fucking good response from Disc as well. Holy Moses.
Well done, Disc.
Thank you. A little pat on the back. We'll keep all this in the pod as well, obviously. Williams had some, okay, I'm so fucking happy. I'm a Williams fan. I've been saying for years now, from the moment James Vowles joined the team, I've been saying this guy is going to be the guy to take us to championship level. And I've been saying it publicly since last February when we started the podcast. But there were dramas at Williams. There were things that happened that at the end of the race, and now I'm concerned about, and I hope that we can resolve them before Imola in a week's time. The dramas were that we saw, I can't remember what lap it was, but we saw Carlos was ahead of Alex, and then Alex put a move down the inside, and I think the commentator said something like, that looks like team orders to let him overtake. It wasn't team orders to let him overtake, as we found out at the end of the race. Carlos said that they were to hold, that the agreement was they were to hold positions at that point in the race. So Alex made the move on his own. And at the end of the race, on the radio, Carlos said that that's not how he goes racing, and that he has lost confidence or faith or something like that in the team and in Alex for Alex making that move. I don't really know why we would be holding position. We need to fight for every fucking point we get. And I hope Carlos has kind of been put down a peg or two that, like, hey, with Williams, we aren't the best. We need to get every single point. And it was also revealed after the race that Carlos had damage, I think either to his floor or to his side pod or something early on in the race. And so that's why Alex made the move, because he felt like he was a lot faster. So yeah, I don't know what's going to go on there. I think James will be questioned about it in Imola, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing his response and hearing what the drivers say and how they kind of bounce back from that. Because it was a great result for the team. We got P5 with Alex and P9 with Carlos, which, okay, Carlos on merit was looking like he could have been faster than the Ferraris. And if he didn't have damage, potentially could have been up there in P6, P7. But I'm taking them points every day of the fucking week. Like, that is that's an unreal result. And I think from where we were this time last year, Carlos and Alex both need to pat themselves on the back and just say how great they're doing this season.
Yeah, for sure. No, it must be. It was pretty weird watching Williams like race and compete with Ferraris. So I'm sure that was quite exciting for you.
And Mercedes. Yeah, Alex overtook Kimi on genuine. Alex overtook Kimi on genuine pace.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sorry, Dis. Didn't mean to sell you short there, man. But yeah, I don't understand why Carlos would think, like, I don't understand the whole team orders thing. Why would you ever think that you would just sit there and cruise in the order that you're currently in? Like,
I understand
if someone's faster than you, then they overtake you. That's the point of the sport.
Yeah, I can understand it from the point of, like, Lando and Oscar to say, okay, at the 75% mark of the race, whoever is in front, that's the person that stays in front. I can understand it from that point of view, because it then, you've got 1-2, and you, at the 75% of the race, like, you say, lap, whatever, like 40, let's just say in this race,
right.
You're going to hold positions from there. So even if Oscar decides to then just save fuel and save his tires, there's nothing Lando can do. I understand it from that point of view. If anyone doesn't know the multi-21 situation with Seb and like Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber in the Red Bull in Malaysia 2012 or 13 or something. If anyone doesn't know that, just go and watch. Just Google multi-21. There'll be videos about it. For reasons like that, I think it's safer, because they almost crashed and ruined both their races because Seb wanted to win the race, even though they had team ordered it and said Mark is going to win this race. I think if you're in a championship fight like that, then that makes sense. I think if you're in the lead, it makes sense. I don't think it makes any sense if you're finishing at most P5. Like, I don't agree with it. I think I agree with you. I think let them race, and whoever's faster is faster.
Okay. All right.
Russell also got very lucky with the VSC towards the end of the race. That's how he got ahead of Max. Just a good strategy from Mercedes to kind of hold out for a potential virtual safety car. They pitted, virtual safety car was ending as he was in the pits, or it came out as he was in the pits. So yeah, it came out while he was in the pits, and then he managed to get ahead. So yeah, just George is just potentially the luckiest fucking person on this planet this year, because he I think he's picked up more podiums from luck than any other driver I've ever known.
Okay.
Let's talk about team orders with Ferrari.
Yeah, what the hell happened here? What was going on? Talk me through it. I don't understand how all this came about.
So Carlos had overtaken Charles for P7 in the race. Lewis was on medium tires and Charles was on hard tires. Yeah, Charles was on hards, Lewis was on mediums. And Lewis caught up to the back of him and was sitting, I think he was sitting like 2 to 1.5 seconds behind Charles. And so from Lewis's point of view, he's killing his medium tires, which are going to be faster than Charles. And he feels like he's got more pace in the car. Totally agree with him. Carlos was starting to get a bit of a lead ahead of Lewis, and Kimi wasn't crazy far down the road. So I think from Lewis's point of view, he was like, I should get past Charles. I've got the faster tires. I can attack Carlos. Carlos then kind of started to slow down. Charles overtook him. Lewis overtook him. Lewis's argument then became, I want to get past him because I want to go catch Kimi. And again, I can fully agree with what Lewis is saying. So Lewis came on the radio and said, there were other messages leading up to it, but his first sassy message, do you want me to sit here the whole race? And it was really sarcastic, real sass on him. And his engineer replies, I'll come back to you. Which is just like, yeah, it's just like, you don't want to, he's already pissed off with you. Just give him the answer like, yes, we're going to change the cars or like whatever. Like they should know what they're going to do at this point already.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I think a little bit later on, he had the response, we want you to keep you in the DRS to Charles like we are now. And Lewis replied, man, you guys, ... And it was just, kind of a lingering message. And then he replies, this is just not good teamwork. It's all I'm going to say. It's not all he was going to say. He was going to say more. No.
Yep.
So then they do let him pass, because he then says, in China, I got out of the way when we were on a different, when we were on a different strategy. They said, understood, we're going to swap the cars. And then he responds and he snaps at them, well, why don't you have a tea break while you're at it? And
okay.
It's just like,
as in they've just taken too long to make that decision. Basically.
Yeah, like they've gone and made a cup of tea. They're just, they're just fucking chilling. They don't really care. And I think for Lewis at that point, his tires were probably crook, and he knew he was going to struggle to catch Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, okay.
Which is exactly what happened. Lewis went past and got 1.6, I think it was, ahead of him, and then just didn't pull away, didn't catch Kimi, and Charles caught him right back up because Lewis's tires were crook and Charles' tires on the hards were starting to be good again. So,
okay. How many laps do you think it would have been that all that was going over? Like, so if that started when he had nice new medium tires that would have been faster, how long later was it that they let him pass, do you think?
I think it was only 3 laps, but honestly, 3 laps is enough. Like 3 laps is enough to really ruin the prime and overheat the car and things like that. Like, and also just to piss Lewis Hamilton off. And we know from history that Lewis can sometimes pull out great races when he's he's angry and he's got the heat under his helmet, but in other times he can feel like he's been shat upon, and then he can race like a child and not do great. So, I don't think rubbing Lewis the wrong way is what you want to do if you're a Ferrari strategist, because easy skin. Because I think Lewis, when Lewis is in a good headspace is when he races the best. And I think, doing what they did was not great. So Lewis eventually does get past Charles, doesn't pull away. Yep. They then... Yep. Charles is then complaining to say that Lewis needs to speed up because he's now destroying his tires and he feels like Carlos might be at risk of overtaking him again. So they swap the cars back and Lewis is not happy. After they swap the cars back, they radio to Lewis to say, Sainz 1.4 behind. To which Lewis responds, do you want me to let him pass as well? It's absolute poetry. Oh, it's just
I haven't
so
watched.
good.
As the fool, I obviously haven't watched a lot of Formula One, but surely that's right up there with the funniest radio message ever sent.
This will go down in history as one of the best. Lee actually put in our
That's
group
a
chat.
wonderful gear.
Yeah, your brother put in our group chat. He was like, "Disco, I know you don't like Lewis, but that was fucking hilarious." And I'm just like, I hate Lewis, but that is the best. That's the best radio message you've had in a few years. That is so good.
Very good. Yeah. That's the reason I watch F1 for moments like that, honestly.
If Lewis, I said last year, Lewis going to Ferrari, I said I can't wait to see the fallout and the drama when they shit on him and they destroy his soul. And I've said it already this season. We're seeing it unfold, but if we're seeing it unfold with Lewis having radio messages like this, then I'm all for it. Stay there for 10 years, Lewis, if you want. We saw this as well. Anyone that knows, like when Seb went to Ferrari, there was all the hype, just like there was with Lewis, and there was a series of Seb getting penalties and things like that, and we saw Seb really break under pressure of Ferrari screwing him and the FIA screwing him and things like that, and we saw Seb get sassy like this on the radio to the point where the previous race director Charlie Whiting, he got a penalty. I don't know even if it was Charlie Whiting that gave him the penalty, but Seb came on the radio and said, yeah, tell Charlie to fuck off or something like that. Like he was real aggressive with the way that he approached it and got reprimanded and had to like publicly apologize and things. But, drivers get heated under the helmet and I reckon that it's just what we're seeing with Lewis. Max does the same, Lando does the same, Oscar doesn't. But I like seeing this and I like seeing drivers being able to snap back and kind of have their own personalities. And I hate to say it because I didn't like Seb so much when he was in the Red Bull and then he went to Ferrari and I loved him. I'm starting to like Lewis Hamilton because of this. I know.
Oh no.
I'm starting to enjoy when I see his little icon pop up for his radio message. I'm excited to see what he's got to say to us.
Goodness me.
I know.
Wow. Things have changed. You're a changed man. Maybe you just don't like Mercedes.
Well, I definitely don't like Toto. I'll give you that.
Oh, okay.
The last thing I want to mention from the race is Lawson. We spoke about him in the sprint race. I said we would get onto him again from the main race. Lawson squeezed Jack on turn 1 into the apex, which ended up ruining Jack's race. Jack had to retire because of it. There was nothing Jack could have done. Like Lawson just squeezed him really fucking tight. And from Jack's initial onboard, I thought, oh, maybe there was another driver on the other side of Lawson, which I think there was, but there was a fucking car length between them. So Lawson did not need to squeeze him that tightly. I don't know. Like Lawson he needs to check himself and his racecraft because that into turn 1 is just not acceptable. And he has caused a driver he ruined his race. And as we know now, Jack's F1 career for the time is over. Jack has been replaced with Franco Colapinto.
Yep. Not ideal.
Not ideal.
But yeah, that onboard was quite weird watching Lawson just like I think it was Jack's onboard where it's like everything looks normal and then Lawson just drives into him.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just like, cheers, mate. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I don't imagine the media pen afterwards, if they bumped into each other, I don't imagine that would have been the friendliest of interactions because he totally ruined his last race in F1 for Alpine for the time being. Okay, moving on to driver of the weekend and biggest letdown. See how I changed it from driver of the day to driver of the weekend because we had a sprint and I figured.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
I went for Alex Albon, P4.
Shock me.
P4 in the sprint. Okay, he got a penalty, so we didn't get any points. P5 in the race, both on merit. I thought that he had a phenomenal weekend. He really showed that Williams is going in the right direction. He really put his elbows out and showed who he was. And he challenged Ferraris and Mercedes all weekend to bag these points. So yeah, hats off to Alex.
All right, very fair. I'm going to be boring and say Oscar. He won the race and drove quite well, which I think is the idea.
I don't think that's boring. I think that's a great answer.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's giving it. But also, like, I guess just in comparison to other races that he's won, where he just like like puts it on pole and then just drives safely and doesn't crash and wins the race. Like here, he actually had to make a really good overtake and stuff. So
yeah,
I thought it was quite exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was one of his best. Even the sprint race, like he really drove well in the sprint and just got unlucky with the safety car. So I think I think Oscar had a great weekend overall. And going into Imola, he should be he's the one to beat, I reckon, at this point. I did read something that Oscar is the fourth or fifth person to win 3 races on the bounce for McLaren in McLaren's history. Lewis never did it, apparently, I don't know if Lewis was on the list, but Lando hasn't done it yet, for sure. So, yeah he joins a very small list of people there for McLaren's history, which is promising.
He also, like next to no one's won 3 races in a row since, essentially just Max and Lewis since quite a long time. It
was, I think, since in the turbo hybrid era, we've only seen Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg, Max Verstappen, and now Oscar Piastri win a race in the turbo win 3 races in a row in the turbo hybrid era.
Okay, exciting times.
Go skiing. Biggest letdown, I've put Charles all weekend. I think he was just silly mistake on the way to the grid, and then in the race he just didn't impress. He didn't. I mean, I think it was more Ferrari's fault than the car's fault, but he just didn't. I wasn't impressed by Charles all weekend.
Okay, fair enough. I was thinking Lawson for crashing into 2 people in 2 different races.
Oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that is a bigger letdown than Charles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. Just like driving straight into other people.
Yeah.
Can't win them all.
Nah, you can't. You actually can't, because Liam didn't win anything. Neither did the people he crashed into. Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. Liam hit 2 people and retired both of them from the races.
Yeah, and he got away.
He got a penalty.
He got away essentially. Yeah, but he got away essentially scot-free in the race, didn't he?
Yeah.
He certainly finished and kept driving. So.
Yeah, weird, very weird, but a very good point. He is definitely the biggest letdown. I take it back, Charles. Great job. Next race we have got, I've not written it down, but I've already said it about 1,000 times. Imola. We have Imola next. Obviously, an iconic circuit. It's got a lot of history. Some things for the wrong reasons. Ayrton Senna, Roland Ratzenberg, Barrichello crash. Like all of that weekend was a bit shit. But we've had some really good racing around Imola. I've written 3 things to look out for at the Imola race. Franco Colapinto's Alpine debut. I think it was also his debut for Williams was at Imola last year. So, and he drove a phenomenal race there last year. So, look out for that. I reckon Franco is going to I think he's going to have his elbows out like he did with Williams last year. And I think he's going to do a good job. Obviously car dependent. We have seen Alpine do well this season, but then races like this one, we saw Alpine just not be there. So we'll see how they go this weekend. Imola has not got a contract past this year. So look out for either a signing that they're going to renew, because we just saw Miami renew until 2041 last weekend, which is a ridiculously large contract. Either expect a renewal for their contract or expect this to be the last Imola race for a little while. And why could it be the last Imola race? It's an old school circuit. Like we mentioned, Senna's death, Roland Ratzenberg's death in 94. This has been on the calendar for a very, very long time, which means overtaking at this circuit is very difficult. So yeah, just keep an eye out for that. It could be a boring one. Make sure that you've got plenty of coffee if you're watching it in Australia and you plan to wake up at 2 a.m. like I do. But yeah, that is going to be Imola next week. And that wraps up another lap around the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the ride as much as we did. And it's now your turn to get in to join us. Well, this is going well. It was so smooth at the beginning. Now I've fucked it up. Sorry, Skin. To join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. You can do that at Formula_Fools on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and at Formula Fools on Facebook.
Amazing. You can also leave us a rating and review wherever you're listening. Apple, Spotify, both allow something along those lines, ratings, and they would help a great deal. Get up the charts, get more people listening. That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Amazing. Next week for the Imola Grand Prix, we're going to be doing a little listen to the chocks. Fuck yeah, go disc. I didn't steal it from We Got the Chocolates, I promise. We're going to do a little Listen to the Fools segment. So if you've got any questions about this season or any questions in general about Formula One, send them into our TikTok or our Instagram and we will get back to them. We're going to do a little seg on that next week, so we'll get back to them then. But yeah, thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.